And a big hello, hello, hello to all of you joining us for our Evernote webinar today. I am Steve Dotto, and I am thrilled that you folks are joining us for this webinar. Now, it's kind of funny, but somewhere in Colorado right now, Ms. Viveka von Rosen is panicking because she was in the room with me a few moments ago, but she was having a few little issues with her internet, so she said, I'm going to restart my computer and jump right back in, Steve. And she's not here. She's going to be going nuts with the webinar, her webinar starting without her there. I personally find it a little bit humorous, but we won't tell her that, will we? We'll let her. We'll pretend that we were really concerned when she shows up. But I'm sure Viveka will be here shortly to welcome you herself. But in the meantime, I will take things solo. I am Steve Dotto, and we are going to be spending the next hour today talking about Evernote. Now, let me give you a lay of the land and a little bit of an understanding of what we're going to be doing today and what the whole structure is. We're delivering this webinar in Google Hangout on Air. It uses a tool called Webinar Jam, which gives us this nice interface and allows us to have this chat window that you will see if you look on the right-hand side of the screen. So this is something that will be live through the entire webinar. Now, when Viveka joins us, she will be able to moderate the chat. I can't moderate the chat while I'm speaking at the same time, but I encourage you all to jump in there and tell us where you're visiting us from today. I always like to know where you're coming in from, and it gets you comfortable with the chat as well. And a few people are getting an error message. Technically speaking, if you are having any issues at all with this, and you can hear me, but maybe you're having trouble seeing me, there's a couple of things that you can do. One is you can just restart the session. That will work. It won't work, typically speaking, if you're using Internet Explorer. If you're using Internet Explorer, please use a different browser. Chrome works great. Firefox works great. Safari works great on the Mac. Chrome is the preferable browser to be using if you are having issues. But try that. And if all else fails, leave and restart and come back into the session. Oh, look who's here. Viveka is just joining us right now. Hi, Viveka.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Are you stressed to the max?
I am so stressed right now.
Why are you stressed, Viveka?
Because I hate technology some days.
Yes. So, anyways, it's good to see you. Thanks for. I was just welcoming everybody on your behalf.
Oh, good. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So
I'm the one who's supposed to introduce you, but you know you gotta love technology.
Well, you can go ahead. We're only 2 minutes in. I've just told them about.
Good.
I've just told them about Webinar Jam. Told them that we have this tool, which is in the chat window, is going to be going there on the right-hand side, which you will be moderating through it. And I've invited them to put where they're from and take a look. We got Lily from Vancouver. We got Ken from Fort Lauderdale. We have from northern Minnesota, Nicole.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. We've got from Half Moon Bay, California. There's Half Moon Bay here in British Columbia, too. We've got Alan. Welcome, Alan. Look at Steve from Phoenix. Glenda from Chile, Toronto. I hear that it's coldest days of the year in Toronto right now, back in Ontario. My kids go to school there. Is it cold? Is it cold in Colorado?
Actually, it's beautiful today. It's 42 degrees, so I can't complain.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you can go ahead. Why don't you just say hi and tell the people why we thought we'd do this webinar together.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. This is Viveka von Rosen. Most of you know me. I'm glad you are signing on right now. I apologize for being a little bit late. I was having technical issues, as per usual. But I am so excited to introduce you to my friend Steve Dotto. I've known Steve for, 1 year, 2 years? It seems like forever, but I think we just met officially at Social Media Camp last year.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Yeah, and since then, I've done a full-day mastermind with him. I've tried to trade brains with him, but he won't let me. He is just brilliant when it comes to productivity, when it comes to using tools for productivity like Evernote and Webinar Jam, which isn't being very productive for me right now. Steve is your go-to guy. If you are on Twitter, you should follow him at @DottoTech. Or go to www.dottotech.com. He has got so many helpful, useful videos on, just anything, on YouTube, on Evernote, on, how to create professional webinars. He'll show you how he's doing like screen thing today. I mean, it's really cool. But today we are here for Evernote, and so Steve, why don't you get us going while we while we welcome a few more people in.
Good stuff, Viveka. And here's how we'll handle this technically as we go along. Is if there are any issues at all, we'll get Viveka to deal with you folks in chat, and that way if you have any problems, she'll work through it. But use the chat also to sidebar to ask questions. At the halfway point and at the end of the webinar, I'll make sure I take questions, and we're going to try and keep it to exactly an hour today so that we respect your time. But we will stick around afterwards if there are lots of questions, so that to make sure that everybody gets all of the answers that they want. And I love the fact that this is such a good time of year to be talking about Evernote, because it's this is a time of New Year's resolutions, as we all kind of are moving ahead and trying to figure out we're on a plan to do better. I saw the best Facebook meme yesterday. Somebody said, I want to open a bar named Resolutions, or a club named Resolutions. For the first 2 months of the year, it'll have fitness gear. For the rest of the year, it'll turn into a bar. So
that's awesome.
But it doesn't have to be that way. We can make sure that as far as our personal productivity and stuff goes, there are some steps that you can take that will just add and make you far more productive. And it's needed. Tools like Evernote are needed now because we're overwhelmed with the amount of digital information that we have to manage. So I'm going to dive in, and we'll get back to Viveka and the questions a little bit later. So Viveka, if I can make sure that you mute your mic so that things don't jump across if you happen to have another one of your disasters, if they're still working on your house. I don't know what's going on there, but there. She's muted now. Now she's completely defenseless against me. But remember to unmute when you come back to talk, okay? That's all I ask. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to dive in just a few moments here into share the screens here and show you some of the and this will be all a hands-on demo. The presentation today will be completely live, so if things break in Evernote, that's what happens in real demos. I'm not too big on doing slideshows. I like to actually show people how software fits and how software works as we go along. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, I'm just doing a quick adjustment. I forgot to increase the size of my cursor. And there we go. Where do I do that? I forget where to do it. I'm not going to do it right now. Oh, well, you guys will have to just deal with the small cursor. Okay, so I'm going to just start screen sharing and dive in and walk you through, and we're going to get going with the actual presentation part of the webinar. So, Viveka, if there are any issues at all with the screen share or anything that's going on, you let me know. Just barge right in. But in the meantime, we'll start. We're going to go through and we're going to talk to you about starting out the year with Evernote. Now, I think people have a lot of confusion as to what Evernote is and how Evernote should fit in their lives. And a lot of people have tried it. They've played with it a little bit. It hasn't caught on yet because they're trying to position Evernote. And I'm going to make sure that you understand. By the end of this webinar, if I have one thing that I want to make sure you understand, I want you to make sure you understand what Evernote is, what it represents, and what it can do for you. So to do that, I've got what I consider to be 5 pieces of the Evernote puzzle that I'm going to talk to you about. And it's really ways that I use Evernote. And I should point out, there is no right and there is no wrong way to use Evernote. It's just a tool. It's just like there's no right and wrong way to write, to do a word process. So there's what works for you. Evernote is going to be how you embrace it and how you use it is going to be what works for you. The way Viveka uses it and the way I use it, even though we both use it to great effect, could be very, very different. And we share ideas and we learn things from each other, but it still has to fit in our own personal productivity life. So the 5 areas that I think Evernote just rocks in are A, research, B, creating a sense of organization, C, mobility, integration, and collaboration. If you understand how Evernote fits into each of those areas, you have a good picture of the Evernote puzzle. So I'm going to do a live demo, about 45 minutes or so of demo, and I'm going to show you Evernote the way that I use it every day. Because remember I said there's no right and there's no wrong? So because there's no right and there's no wrong, there's no perfect way to show Evernote. So instead, I'm going to set it against my life and let you view that through your own lens and determine how it might fit in your life. So let us dive in to Evernote itself. So I'm going to move across and bring up my Evernote. Here's my Evernote account here. And what you see here is my Evernote app. And here is the first place that people kind of fall off the bandwagon as far as Evernote goes, is a lot of people need clarification about what something is. They need to classify it, before they're willing to start to use it or to start to try and figure it out. So people try and figure out, what is Evernote, the app? Is it like a word processor? Is it kind of like Dropbox or Google Drive? What is Evernote? And asking us to classify it in that way is unfair, because it's understandable, because we've got an app that runs on our desktop computer, we've got an app that runs on our smartphone, we've got a web-based interface. So we've got these different tools that look like they're Evernote, but those are really only windows into Evernote. There are ways for us to access Evernote. Evernote's a cloud-based service, and it's really the information that you store in Evernote that's the value. Here is a good way to look at what Evernote is. Evernote is your digital bank account, not for money, but for data, for all those little bits of information that you have and that you need and that you want to store, that might have value in the future, that you want to invest in and hold on to and utilize in some way. It's your bank account for all of your data. And the more you invest in it, the more you deposit into Evernote, the more equity you have in Evernote. So it's the data. It's those little bits of information. And then what Evernote brings to the table is access to it. It's storage and it's retrieval. It's the ability to quickly capture this information in an effortless way, which is a huge part of what Evernote is, the whole bringing information into it. And it's also then the recovery of that information once you've stored it. Those are the real keys to using Evernote. So think of it that way. And here's where the magic starts to appear.
Steve, let me interrupt for just a minute.
Sure.
Everyone's asking, not everyone, several people are asking if you can enlarge your screen. They're having a hard time seeing it.
Okay, I will. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can make it bigger.
And no, there was also a question if there was a dial-in number. And is it best that people use Chrome for a webinar jam? Yes, okay.
This one, Chrome. As far as enlarging my screen here, I don't think I can. I'm trying to zoom in on the screen, and it's just giving me a bunk in this window. So I can't enlarge the screen. But once we get it, so what the detail of the what's in the notes and stuff isn't quite as important as is what I'm saying at this point here. So I'm not going to be going into how you open this menu and you do that. So they should be okay. I'm sorry that I can't make it any bigger right now.
Okay. And there will be a recording of this, correct?
Absolutely. At the end of the webinar, about an hour after the webinar is over, everybody will be sent a recording with a replay. And I've got lots of videos on my channel, on my YouTube channel, that describe all of the different processes that we're going through as well. So there's going to be lots of different ways for you to learn as well. We'll be talking about. I've got a course that they can take as well, which I do zoom in on the screens a lot in.
Okay.
So, which will help. Okay. So is there any other questions?
Yeah, a couple here. Someone is asking. Rob is asking. His version of Evernote looks different than you, but you're not actually. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so in Windows, one thing about Evernote is they don't try and work to the lowest common denominator. They work with whatever to the maximum of whatever operating system they're in. So the Android version of Evernote on a smartphone looks different than the iOS slightly, and the Windows version looks slightly different than the Mac. The functionality is almost identical across all the platforms, but there are some subtle differences in how they're applied in the user interface. But these same overriding the tenets that I'm going to be talking about cross all of those different platforms. Okay?
Perfect. All right.
Excellent. Okay, now I forget where I was.
Sorry, I
was on such a roll, too. I did such a good
I know.
I was congratulating myself on, because Evernote is so difficult to explain to people. But I like the bank. Do you like the bank account analogy?
I like the bank account analogy.
Because I used to make it a food analogy, and that sucked, frankly. So this is better. So at any rate, so let me take you through how I use it on a daily basis myself and how it works for me. So before we start, though, I know you can't see the detail of the screen, but this Evernote screen here, how I have it laid out, is how it'll look in a lot of your different apps. It'll look very similar in the web-based version or in one of the apps. And just down the left-hand side are shortcuts to all of your main areas. Down the center are our notes. So this is very much like Outlook as far as if you're used to an email program where you've got all of your email. We've got all of the notes down the center. And then the right-hand side is my editing window. This is where I can actually edit and view all of the different documents. So and you can alter the view to look at Evernote in a variety of different ways. You can look at it by notebooks, etc. But this is just how I have it laid out. Now, actually, before I dive in, I'm going to talk a little bit about the other big stop points that a lot of people hit when they use Evernote. And I'm going to just change my view here and show you the notebook view. These are all my different notebooks. This is the data structure of Evernote. Now, Evernote has notes, and they have notebooks, and they have stacks of notebooks. They have basically 3 levels of information. And a lot of people get stuck with Evernote right away because as soon as they start setting up their Evernote account, they get paralysis by analysis. What they do is they say, I've got to create a structure that I can work with in the future so that I can find the information that I'm looking for somewhere down the line. Otherwise, Evernote's no good to me if I put stuff in and I can't find it. So they start to establish and try and create some sort of hierarchical structure and naming convention for all of their information, and they try and figure it all out right at the beginning. And that is an exercise in futility. You couldn't possibly do that very well, and so they get stuck. So they end up stopping using Evernote because they're stopped at the very beginning. Evernote is a different way of storing information than what we're historically used to in our computer. When we, even 5 or 6 years ago, when we were setting up filing systems on our computer to retrieve documents, we followed a real-world metaphor of filing cabinets and folders and a naming convention to files so that we could search through and find documents, because we typically would use our eyes as a search engine, our eyes and our brain. We would go logically through 2012 invoices, customers A to C, and then we would find the particular customer, and then we would look for the invoice number because it's named in the file. So we would navigate through this hierarchical tree, and that made sense to us, and it was the way we worked. Evernote is a new age tool. It works like Google works. It works based on search. It doesn't matter where a document is or a piece of data is in Evernote. You can find it through search. So I recommend people that start, don't even bother creating any notebooks at all. Just put everything in an inbox, which is the kind of the default notebook in Evernote, and just search on it until you start to recognize how you're using it, and then start to add some structure later. You can start to use Evernote as soon as this webinar is over. Use it for weeks and weeks without ever going in and starting to dive in and actually adding structure. And you don't lose anything, and you're not going to be far behind, because how you find things typically, as I say, is through search. Now, we do have a feature in Evernote called tags, which we use to create context-sensitive information, which really helps us when we do want to visually browse through information and find related content. But that's farther downstream. So you can start with Evernote without ever worrying about what the data structure is going to look like. And then once you get comfortable with the tool, you can start to apply your own. You can see I actually have quite a bit of structure. I've got a lot of different notebooks, just how I like to do things. But I also have a fraction of the notebooks that some of my friends do. And I also have lots more notebooks than some other people who use Evernote even more than I do. So as I said, no right, no wrong way, but don't get stuck on the minutia of creating some sort of organizational structure at the beginning. Let it go. You've got to take a deep cleansing breath. Do it all with me right now. A cleansing breath, and just let it go. Okay, so let me dive in and let me show you how I use it typically on a daily basis. Now, my day-to-day job is actually, I'm a YouTube content creator. I used to do a TV show here in Canada, and now I basically recreate that show on YouTube. And so I'm always doing product demos of different productivity tools or different things that you might want to be using, different ways that technology fits in our life. So my day typically starts out with a little bit of research. So I might, this morning, for example, I want to do a story on wearable health technology, because that's such a big thing, those Fitbits and all that kind of stuff. And with CES going on right now, I was just reading about this new tool that not only counts your steps, but it measures your flab. It's going to be awesome. So I'm reading through it. So, yeah, it measures your fat. Yeah, I don't know how it does it. But it does it. I don't like it, but it's cool. Okay, at any rate, it's a valid piece of technology for me to know about. Now, I don't know when I'm going to write this story or record this story. I've got a Fitbit on the way. I'm going to be using it. I've started my New Year fitness campaign. I'm in pain today because I worked out this morning already. But I have to kind of make this technology fit my life first. But this is a good piece of content. Excuse me. You have to excuse me. I'm still got the end of the year cold that's kind of hanging on. But I'm going to, so here's a typical piece of technology that I might want to store for some time in the future. Now, if we go on the Wayback Machine to say 4 or 5 years ago, if I was doing research and I found a website and I found an article like this that I wanted to store because I might want to use at some point in the future, what would have been my best way to archive this to be able to find it? Well, I could have used a bookmark, but we all know that's next to useless because you never find things by bookmarks. More creative people will email it to themselves, which is a bit of a it's not a bad idea because, it certainly then is a way that you can get the document to you, but email is the worst filing system in the world. And do we really need more email overload? And when was the last time you actually found anything that you looked for in your email? So ultimately, this is just going to add more wasted time when you go to look for something. Plus, you can't really search on it because you've got no way to tag it in email to say, just fitness apps and be able to find something quickly in the future that way. So other people might say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the URL and paste it into a document and save that document. Now, that's not a bad idea, actually, but it's very labor-intensive because you have to copy the URL. The URL is not going to make any sense typically when you go to paste it in, so you're going to have to write about it, and then you're going to have to figure out how to file that in your own system in order to find it again. So bottom line is, if I've read this thing 3 or 4 years ago, if I'd read this story, and in 2 or 3 months from the time that I read it, if I was going to be doing a story on this topic, I'd be starting to do a fresh search. I wouldn't be able to make a withdraw on any of the digital assets that I'd read about in the past. I wouldn't be remembering this one specifically. With Evernote, I've got the ability to clip this, store it in Evernote, and when I need it, have it bubble to the surface and be ready for me to then look at and use at some point in the future. By taking this and capturing it to Evernote, I've just increased my equity in my digital bank account as far as I'm concerned. And there is a beautiful tool that Evernote gives us to help us with that process. Installed in my browser, if you look here in the very top, now maybe I can zoom in on the screen. Can I zoom in on the screen? I can zoom in, but it's not zooming in on the toolbar, so it's not helping.
It's zooming in for us. It's looking bigger to us.
Yeah, but the toolbar is not.
Okay, got it.
But installed in my browser is this little tool here, which has an elephant on it, which is called the Evernote Web Clipper. And the Evernote Web Clipper is such a beautiful tool that when I first saw it, I believe I wept real tears of joy. The Evernote Web Clipper installs in any browser, and it allows us to basically clip the information from the whatever we see on the web on that page and store it in Evernote. And we don't just clip the information in its raw form, but instead we can actually choose how we're going to clip it. And if we take a look here, I've got it's showing me that I can clip the article, I can clip a simplified article, full page, bookmark, screenshot, and then I can also determine where it's going and add tags. So let me just walk through this really quickly because I don't want to get into too much detail about using Evernote, but this is a really important point because the collection of information is one of the most important aspects. If I just clip the article, it's going to take everything in the article. But watch what happens to the article when I click on this tab here which says Simplified Article. It uses a technology that Evernote's developed called Clearly, which you can use in your web browser if you choose, but it strips out all of the ancillary information around the article. All of the ads and all of the noise gets stripped out, and just the article itself is here. So if I was going to save this, I don't want all the ads and I don't want all that other stuff. I just want the information and the photos from the article itself. So I'm going to choose to clip the simplified article. Then I can choose where I'm going to store it. See, it says here inbox, but I can choose any of my different notebooks, and then I can add a tag. Adding tags, and I'm going to add the demo tag here because I use when I see something that I think might make a good product demo for my show, I put a demo tag on it. That way, when I'm suffering from content creators block 3 months down the road, and I don't know what I should be recording and talking about, I can just go and look at all of my articles that I've classified as good ideas for demos, bring up those tags, and browse through that information and look through it and see. 3 months ago, I thought it was a good idea. Do I still think it's a good idea now? And it helps me then. It helps me create my content, my flow of content in the future. But I can add this tag right here. Once I've done all of that, I click on save, and a little bit of magic happens. A connection happens between my browser here and Evernote, and it stores the information to Evernote. And it's really interesting. This thing, it's just in the last couple of days that I've been doing this, a step in the process has not happened. It happened again. Typically speaking, when you do this at home, what will happen is now a dialog box will come up that will confirm that we've been saving it and ask where you want to and ask if you want to share this with others. Because once this document is stored yourself, they think you might be wanting to share it. So it gives you an opportunity to share it socially, which gives us a peek at the future of what Evernote brings to the table downstream. Because the fact is, all of this information is stored in a cloud service, which means it has a URL attached, which means we can share it. We could tweet this out, this article. We could share it on Facebook. We could blog with it. So we can use that link in order to share this information should we choose to. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do that right now, but later on, at the very end of the webinar, when we're talking about collaboration, I will be talking a lot about how we use it in that sharing aspect. But at any rate, I've just now clipped this information. So I should show you one other style of clipping before I go, because I've showed you clipping the text. There's also the ability to create what's called a screenshot. The screenshot I use a lot when I'm in design mode and other things, where you can actually take the document. I'm just going to zoom out on the document a bit so we can see more of it now. And you get a crosshair snapshot that allows you to highlight an area, and it takes a little snapshot of it, and then it brings up an annotation tool that allows you to, and instead of this now being text, it's actually a graphic, and you can actually draw arrows, and you can comment on what you see. So this is wonderful when you're doing design projects, or if you're putting together a newsletter or promotional materials or designing a new website. This gives you the ability to work visiting a website and then marking it up and sharing that with your team or with your graphic artists or with anybody. So you've got the ability to mark it up in this way using this tool. Once that's all done, you click on Save, and again, it's being saved to and stored in my Evernote account. So that's how my day typically will start out, doing some research. So let's move on in the day, and now let's go into my Evernote account here, and I'm going to go back into the view. I want to view my, I just want to get into the view that I was in before, which is, there it is, that's right. So now I'm in my inbox here, and once it's synced, I should have those two new documents right here, and there they are. They've appeared right here. So here's the first one, or the second one that I marked up, and here's the first one that I just clicked on and stripped out all the information. So you see it's all here. Now I do have that tag that I applied called demo, but now Evernote will search on this. It's going to index all of this content and all of this information in here, and I'll be able to search on this document at some point in the future. So now what will happen typically is I go into Evernote early in the day, and I do a little bit of structure, a little bit of organization, going through my inbox and seeing if there's anything that I need to deal with, much like you would do in your email. But this is where the organizational factor of Evernote comes in. The fact that it's here now and I can search on it means that I can get and I can recall this information at any point when and where I need it. So that brings us to the next phase, which is around mobility. Evernote as a tool is phenomenal on the desktop, doing things like gathering information here and doing research and collecting information and being able to recall it on your desktop. But one of the key tenets to Evernote is having access to your information where you are as well as when you are. And that's where mobility comes in. And I am going to dive right now. I'm going to just jump across, and I'm going to open up my smartphone here and share that with you. And I was hoping that I would have my new smartphone. I have a new phone coming, and it didn't arrive today. Actually, you know, knowing the way things are going for us today, Viveka, the guy's probably going to arrive at the door right in the middle of our demo today.
Exactly.
So this is just an iPhone. But what we're going to be showing you here works the same on the iPhone as it would on an Android phone. So I'm going to open up my Evernote account here. So what happens typically in a day? So you start out the day, and you might do the research the way that I've done it and all that sort of stuff. But then a little bit later on in the day, you head out and you have a coffee with a colleague, with a potential client, with a coworker, with a friend. And while you're sitting down having coffee, you start chatting, and in the dialogue before you get down to work, up comes this idea of, I've been thinking about these new, doing a story on Fitbits and these wearable health technology. And then you mention to your friend or to your potential client, I saw one today that measures your body fat. And they go, wow, that's so cool. I'd love to see that. You go, really? And typically in the old days, what would happen is you say, well, when I get back to the office, I'll find the article and I'll email it to you. Oh, that's not being a current kind of person, is it? With this, now, when you're there, you can say, here it is. Let me just call it up here right now. And so you call it up on your phone, and you send it to them now. You share that with them at that moment. This is where your investment and your digital bank account starts to pay off. You become the person who not only is connected to what's happening in the world, but has all the information at their fingertips and can deliver it at the moment where it's needed and when it's needed. You have done yourself such a solid as far as raising your profile with a potential client, moving the ball downfield with your team, or just helping out a friend, having access to this information. And with Evernote, you've got this access all the time, wherever you are. How many times have you been at the liquor store where you've gone, holy cow, what was that bottle of wine that we had the other day? And you can never remember what the bottle of wine was, so you end up buying the same thing over and over again. I'm going to do a quick search here in Evernote, and I'm going to type in the word wine. And this is one of the very first notes I ever made when I opened my Evernote account. And here is a bottle of wine that I had with friends of mine. And so now I just took a picture of it and stored it in Evernote. And I didn't do anything with it when I put it in Evernote. I think this was it was like 5 or 6 years ago. But here's such a cool thing about it. Evernote is searching on the word wine in the label here. It actually parses out and looks within the text of images as well as searching on the fields themselves, and it pulls out. So the first time I did this search, I just freaked out because if I did this on the desktop computer, the word wine would have a box around it, meaning that was what was searched, and that was the result of the search. But think about how powerful this is now. You snap a picture of something where you are at any point in the future, and then when you need it, when you need to leverage that information at some point in the future, you can just call it up on your phone. That's where the mobility aspect of Evernote is ever so important, allowing us to collect information on our desktop all through our life, collecting these little bits of data that might or might not be relevant in the future, but it doesn't matter because we can store them all in Evernote, and then being able to access them whenever we need it, wherever we need it, because of the power of our smartphones. Absolutely phenomenal. But it gets better because our smartphones don't just allow us to access information, but they also allow us to collect more information. For example, this bottle of wine that I took a picture of the label of. I did that using the digital camera built into the smartphone, and Evernote has a camera app, which I'll be talking about more in a few minutes. But we can use it to collect everything from business cards to wine bottles to snapshots of whatever napkin we happen to be brainstorming our new idea on. So if we continue with that coffee that we're having with a potential client, then we've just shared information with them, which they find very valuable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to collect some new information. We're going to make a note about an upcoming meeting. Now, I don't like typing on these keyboards. I don't know if you like typing on your smartphone, but I like to use the voice dictation, so humor me for a second. Important meeting notes. There we go. And I'm going to tap and I'm going to edit the actual content of this email or this note. Be sure to invite the entire team to the next meeting, comma, as it will be kicking off the entire project, exclamation mark. There we go. So I've created a nice little note. I save that note, and we wrap up the meeting. Now, what have I just done? Think about what I've done up to this point. We did some research this morning. We found a cool piece of technology. We saved it to Evernote, not knowing when we're going to be able to use it, but we created more equity in our Evernote account, in our digital bank account, by collecting a piece of information. We did a little bit of organization. We headed out on the road. We had a coffee with a potential client. We really elevated our status with that client by delivering some content to them that at the moment when they needed it, when they were interested in it. We collected more information on the road, and now we go back to our office and we're ready to start working with that information. So we sync again, and here's the new meeting note in Evernote ready for me to work with. I mean, if you could have done this 5 years ago, I mean, if you can do it today, a lot of you are going to go, holy cow, I didn't realize I could do that today. And here's the kicker. Everything I've shown you up to now is in the free version of Evernote. Everything that we've covered up to this point, you can do in Evernote for free. That's the power of Evernote. So now you're starting to see how you use it to collect information and how the mobility aspect works. Viveka, if you're still there, I want to call you back on because it's let's take a few questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop screen sharing here. Let me just go back into. I got to find the right place. So how are we doing? Is everybody still? Is there lots of questions?
Lots and lots of questions. So
okay, so
are you ready for some of them?
Yeah, let's take a few questions and then we'll dive in with the rest of the demo. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. And a lot of these I think we'll hold off until we get to the LinkedIn part. Blair's asking about Evernote and LinkedIn and Card Munch. I know we're
Okay.
going to cover that in a bit. Let's see. Yes, this will definitely, we'll send you a recording of this. I know there's some sound issues.
Oh, are there?
Yeah. So Lola asks, do you use Evernote Premium and what are the advantages? I have a feeling you're going to get into that later.
Uh, Evernote Premium I think it's $45 a year. It's not a huge amount of money, and I always buy things like I use the some of the different tools I'll be talking about later, but I use the Evernote the Moleskine Evernote notebook where I keep all of my notes. I don't know if you can see it. It is. And with every time you buy one of these notebooks, you get 3 months of premium included.
Yeah.
So you buy 4 a year, and you've got your whole year paid for as far as premium. So it doesn't really cost me extra as far as I'm concerned to be using the premium. With premium, you get more collaborative tools. There's all around sharing. And you also get some additional security benefits and some other things. But for the most part, until you bump your head, people should just start with the free version and not even worry about premium until they say, oh, I wish I could do this. And if it's only available in premium, then they move ahead. But the main thing is around being able to share notebooks with your team. So as an individual, you're pretty much solid, but it's when you have to share notebooks.
So that was kind of another question that several people asked. Can you use this for project management? Can you use Evernote for project management?
It fits in the project management. It fits in with your strategy, and I'll be showing in a few moments using it with a team task manager like Asana.
Okay,
but it doesn't do it. It doesn't do true project management. It does simple to-dos, simple tasks, but there are ways to integrate it with more robust task managers like Todoist. I'm going to show you with Trello, that sort of thing.
Great, good. I use Asana. And Glenda actually uses, she says, I use Evernote to manage all my projects. So that's kind of cool. She does it with lists of to-dos and checkbox. So we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Oh, I'm glad to know that about Asana. I didn't know that.
Well, and if you do projects as an individual, Evernote will probably do everything you want. It's when you get into a team environment that you typically are going to want to have another player in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Polly and I answered as best I could, but you probably can give a better answer. She said when you're sending an email to Evernote your Evernote address, where does it go?
Oh, okay. And that's something I didn't even mention. One of the other ways that we can create, that we send information to Evernote is Evernote, and almost all of these new productivity apps have an email address that's attached to your account. And so I've just got when you send an email to my Evernote account, it just goes into my Evernote inbox. So I do that with all of my receipts and all of my invoices and that sort of stuff, is I just forward it out of my email, because you don't want this stuff living in your email. You want it stored where you can recover it, and it's just sent to Evernote. Now, based on if you modify the subject, you can actually decide that it doesn't go into your inbox, but it goes into specific notebooks or has specific tags attached. I know that was something that you worked on. I remember you working your way through it. So you can email directly out of your email app and remove that type of content from your email inbox and put it into Evernote where it's more appropriate for it to be stored.
Yeah, I love that function, the ability to say and it to go right to your notebook.
Yeah.
Let me see. There are a couple other notes. Let's go ahead and move on, because a lot of the questions are about linking Evernote to CRM systems and to project management systems. So
I'm glad people are asking that, because I will get into that. That's a lot of times the audience isn't quite that technical. So let's go. Well,
hey, it's my audience. We are pretty damn smart. Darn smart.
Okay. I accept that. And I will honor that. So let's jump back in, and I'll go back into my demo side. There we go, and share the screen, Steve. Come on. There it is. Boop. And let's head back into, there we go. Okay, all right. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is one of my favorite areas of Evernote, which is around collaboration. Integration. Now, it seems everybody and their dog wants their software to work with Evernote. So we're starting to see all of the different players in the productivity space making sure that whatever their app is, that it works with Evernote. So I'm going to just jump back into my iPhone here, and I'm going to open Evernote up. Now, you have to bear with me. If my iPhone crashes, it's not necessarily Evernote's fault. It's this old iPhone of mine. This is the last days of my old 4S. even though I'm a tech guy, I hold on to tech. I refuse to buy the newest all the time just because I think it's so wasteful. But this phone has seen its best day. The battery lasts for about 8 minutes, and but it does occasionally with the camera app. It does occasionally have little issues, so we might have a crash, but we'll see. And that's why it's fun. That's what makes this so much fun. Isn't that fun? Sure, it's fun. Okay, so I'm back in. This is the main interface for Evernote. Now, one of the most compelling pieces of collaboration or integration that we're seeing comes from your friends at LinkedIn. And this one just gobstopped me. About a year ago, LinkedIn bought a service called CardMunch, which allowed you to scan in business cards and capture business cards. And a few months ago, they said, oh, you know what, the CardMunch is nice, but we're going to switch over and we're going to put all our eggs in the Evernote basket because Evernote is becoming the 800-pound gorilla in this space. So they basically created an Evernote integration between LinkedIn, card scanning, and Evernote. And here's how you find it, and here's how you enable it. Is you go into the settings. Now, this is available finally in both Evernote on iOS and Android, because it was only available in iOS for the longest time. But if we go into your settings, and you go into, oh, just a minute, where is it? I thought it was there. Settings. It should be camera settings. General. Sorry, general. That's it. And there I find camera. This isn't something I go into every day, right? So we see where they have different tools are integrated with Evernote. So this is Evernote's interface. This is not the iOS interface. This is Evernote's general settings. And we see here that it will integrate with Post-it notes, with the Moleskine notebook, and business cards. And each of these are different companies that have partnered with Evernote. So the Post-it note people, if you're a Post-it note person, you can stick Post-it notes all over the place. Use your Evernote camera to take pictures of Post-it notes, and then you can decide where they're going to go, what kind of labels are going to be attached based on the Post-it note. It's redonkulous. Similarly, the Moleskine notebook people allow you to take pictures of your Moleskine notebook. So this is awesome. If you're the sort of person that takes notes, likes to write down by hand, this is one of the best ideas ever. You take pictures of your notes every day. It date stamps them, and it stores them in Evernote. So in 3 years from now, when you're looking, you know how when you want to look back in an old notebook and you have to flip through, 5 or 6 old notebooks to find the note that you remember you took 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 2 years ago. Now you're going to be able to search on all of that because it will digitize all the information. It will OCR the information, turning it into text, and you can also tag it as it comes in. So you just use your smartphone to take pictures of the pages as you're capturing them in the Evernote Moleskine notebook. And I'll show you this on the camera side in just a moment. But finally, we have our LinkedIn integration, and that had to be such an interesting conversation at LinkedIn when somebody says, we spent millions of dollars on CardMunch, and
right.
you're saying that we're going to go with these guys who we don't even make any money with. Oh yeah, that was an easy conversation. So here's what you do: is you connect your LinkedIn account to Evernote, and you can choose to save all of your images that you capture to your contacts. You can choose where the business card that you capture is stored, and you can choose if you want to add a tag to it as it comes in as well. So now imagine you're at a trade show and you're exchanging business cards with somebody. So here's how it works. I'm just going to do it really quickly. And hopefully it won't crash. But I've already said the caveat. It might. So we'll see. So somebody gives you the business card. You met somebody fascinating, and they give you their business card. You just go into your camera settings, bink, turn on the camera. Come on, camera. There it is. Now, just see here in the bottom, these are the different things that I can, if I scroll across, I've got the ability to capture. This all relates to what we saw at the bottom. I can do a Post-it note. See how it squares it off into Post-it note format? I can take a regular photo, and I'm just scrolling my finger across on the screen. I can take a document. I can choose to capture a business card. So if I choose to capture a business card, this is what happens, is it tries to identify the business card. Come on. Where is it? There's a business card. I'm having issues.
The other way, the other way. Go the other way.
Other way.
There you go.
Where's my phone? I'm trying. Come on. Come on, Steve. Why am I having
a little bit to the left. You are having some issues there, dude.
Oh, well, you know what? You know what it is? What the heck is going on here? Why is it doing? There we go. Come on.
There we go. There we go. Oh, you almost had
Shut
it.
up. Oh, you know what it is? I'm looking at the screen instead of my phone. That's a problem.
Yes.
And it's all over.
There you
There
go.
it is.
Stop. Stop now. Stop
I'm
now.
stopping. I'm stopping. And I tap on it. It should focus in. Come on. Come on.
Oh, you lost it.
The problem is I'm looking. There we go. It's not so. I'm looking at the.
Tap. Tap. Stop. Tap.
There
You
we
guys,
go.
just trust me. It works.
There it is.
There we go.
I don't know if it worked or not. Oh, good. It crashed. It crashed.
Nice. Yeah.
We have no credibility with this audience anymore. Oh, well. And I'm just going to open Evernote again and see what happened. Maybe I could show you pictures of my dog in the meantime.
Oh, there's a quick question. What's the name of the app that you use to show your iPhone? Is it Rev? Is that the one? What's
No.
it called?
I'm using one called, it's called Reflector.
Reflector, that's
Reflector is
it.
what I use to share the iPhone screen on the while I'm doing a presentation. So it didn't work, but imagine how cool it would be if it did, and it will. It works for you, doesn't it, Viveka?
It does, yeah. I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's this iPhone 4S. I don't know what's going on with this iPhone and the camera, and I'm not sure if other people at the 4S have the same issue, but I know that I've been testing with an iPhone 5, my partner's 5. Worked fine on her 5, but she wouldn't leave it at home with me today. And as I said, my 6 is coming. I got a 6 Plus. I got the big ass one. It's coming, and I'm just waiting for the doorbell to ring and my dog to go crazy in the middle of the webinar. So, at any rate, everybody is trying to integrate their tools with Evernote and making it work. Because if we think about Evernote as the base where all of the information lives, then we want to sometimes apply that information in different spaces and in different ways. For example, a business card, we don't want to have it live just within Evernote, but we want to make sure that that contact carries across to LinkedIn, carries across to our address book. So the integration becomes really relevant. Now, what happens with this particular integration is as soon as that's captured, it'll do OCR on the name and the business. It then goes to LinkedIn, finds that individual on LinkedIn, creates a connection between you and said individual, and exchanges all the relevant information between you. So it does all of this handshaking for you of completing the introduction that you started by exchanging business cards. Absolutely brilliant. I love that idea of just how that works. But it gets even better when we start to look at some of the other ways that Evernote works. So let's talk about integration with some other apps. Now, here's one thing that we do an awful lot is we will be using Evernote to take notes in a meeting. And so here I've got my meeting notes, and basically it's just I book a venue, set a date, invite guests, book a keynote. Those sorts of to-dos that you do have. Almost every meeting that you do, you come out of that meeting with a to-do list, with something that has to be done by somebody that has to be assigned. So what will happen is you'll take all your notes in Evernote at the meeting, and then you'll go and you'll open up your task manager or something else, and you will copy everything across a little bit later. But Evernote has integration that will allow us to bypass that. A tool like Task Clone, which I'm showing you here, is I think it's like $14 a year for Task Clone. That will create a conduit between Evernote and 40 different task and to-do list managers, or with Google Calendar, and will allow you to automatically take notes, parse the information out of notes in Evernote, and send them across into the whatever app you choose. It's actually kind of magic, so I think I'll show it to you if you'll humor me for a second. So it takes you a few seconds to set up the integration, because you have to set up, this is API level integration, so you have to give permission from both Asana, in my case, because I use Asana, and Evernote in order for this connection to occur. But here's how they do it. Within Evernote, we've got some basic task and to-do list managers. We can set a reminder by clicking on the reminder icon, and we could also, if we click on the text within any note, we could also create little check boxes to kind of make things little to-do lists and that sort of stuff. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to select the text here. Why am I not seeing my menu? Come on. Maybe. My Mac is sad right now. What's going on? Let's try this way. There we go. What I can do is I can select these items that are to-do lists, that are task items from the meeting, and I can apply a checkbox to them. Now, by applying the checkbox, I then tell Evernote that these items here I want to be linked across into my task or to-do list manager. But if I did that with every checkbox, I couldn't just set up a simple checkbox list in Evernote. So instead, I'm going to add a tag. So the tags create context, and the tag that I'm going to add is one that I created called To Asana. And my To Asana tag, if I apply that, something really nice happens. I'm just going to save this note. There we go. I'm going to sync Evernote here just to get things started. And what happens is Evernote recognizes that there's checkboxes in this note. And it also recognizes that there's a tag To Asana. So that tells Evernote these items should be shared with Task Clone because it has something to do with them. So it calls up Task Clone and says, yo, got a delivery for you, Mr. Task Clone. And Mr. Task Clone comes back and says, what is it? And then it accepts the delivery. And you know it accepts the delivery because you see this little change here? It's going to be tiny, but it says a little TC. It's telling me that Task Clone has now taken these notes, and I should have shown you the Evernote. I should have shown you Asana before. But here's my Asana account here, and when I open Asana, we don't see them here yet. Let's wait for it to refresh. There they are. There's the notes that have now been imported into Asana. Isn't that cool? Think about how many steps that removes. And you can do this with appointments as well as tasks. And the cool thing is with tasks, once you move them into a tool like Asana, which is a team-based task manager, you can assign these to-dos to somebody else, which is, I think, the most effective of task management strategies. It's awesome to be able to. Do you like that, Viveka?
I did not know. Oh, my speaker's still on. I didn't know you could do that. That's so cool.
I know, it's very cool. And Troy Christmas is the guy that created Taskflow, and he's done a great job. And it's cheap. It's like $14 a month or something like that. Or $14 a year. It's a fairly inexpensive app. You have to set it up right in the first place, but once it's set up, it just works rock solid. And look at this. He even has a quote for me in his thing, and Michael Hyatt. So look, we're in good company. There's lots of people that like it. I like that I'm right next to Michael Hyatt as far as testimonials for it go. Okay, so let's move along now, and let's talk about the last aspect of the 5 pieces of the Evernote puzzle, which is collaboration. So, and we kind of started with that, with looking at how we can take content from Evernote and send it out to our task manager. But the other thing that you can do within Evernote is with any note that you create here in Evernote, let's go back to this one that we captured earlier. If you click on the very top right of Evernote, you have a share option. And so you can take this and we can copy the public link. If we think about where Evernote is syncing all of this information, they're storing it online, and they're basically creating a sync between our device and our Evernote account online for our multiple devices. The fact that it's all online means that we actually have a URL. It's basically a web page when anything is stored, which means it has a URL, which means that we can share it in a variety of different ways. So we can copy that to our clipboard like that, or we can also take that note and we can also post it to major networks like LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, because it's just a URL. Let me go back into my browser, open a new browser window, and I'm going to paste into this browser window that URL. Excuse me. As I said, still recovering from the winter's flu. But here it is as we view it in, now this is in a browser now, but we see the same information being shared. So you could take this URL, you could shorten it in Bitly, and you could post it out to Twitter, or you could put it into your blog, or you can store it almost anywhere that you want, but you can now share this URL. And the cool thing is you can take the URL, if you've received it from somebody else, click on Save to Evernote, and then you save this note into your own Evernote notebook. So this creates very, very simple sharing. So I do this with each and every one of my if we go back into my Evernote account here, here it is. This is my newsletter that went out this morning. My latest newsletter, talking about a new webinar I have coming up. I automatically one of the email addresses that I have subscribed to my newsletter list is my Evernote account. So everyone comes in here. So I can now then take this newsletter from here, and I can post it to Facebook or Twitter just through the URL. So I don't have to publish it as a web page or do any of that sort of stuff. It's being published now as a web page within Evernote. And in fact, there's a company called Postachio, which allows you to take all of your Evernote notes, put them in a single notebook, and use them like a blog roll, use them like a Tumblr blog, and it actually posts it into a website in a Tumblr-like blog, where you're using Evernote as your publishing platform for as I say, a Tumblr-type blog. Isn't that cool? So that's another way that Evernote allows you to share. And this becomes really valuable sharing notes. I'm going to be talking to you about my course in a few moments. This is how I deliver every one of my course modules, is a shared Evernote note, which means that all of my content is in a note. I send that out as an email. You click on that, and then you save that note to your own notebook. And then at the end of the course, you've got basically an Evernote textbook with all of the different shared notes stored on your own system. So it's a really creative way to do things. The last aspect of this is sharing the entire notebook, and this is only available to premium users. But here, if you're dealing in a team environment, you can click on this and you can actually share all of the notes with just as you would like a Google Doc or anything else. So you can actually share it and have collaborative work happening on the notebook, which is great for team environments. Now, Evernote recognizes that this collaboration is a big part of the future of Evernote, so they've recently added this tool here, which is Evernote's Work Chat, which is basically a chat interface built right into Evernote. I think, personally, that downstream, Evernote is going to try and be more than just this note storage place. It's going to try and become its own social network where you store all of your information, you have access to it, but you also interact with others. And this chat is just the first step towards having probably more like a LinkedIn community feeling to a lot of the different work groups that you might be working in, creating sort of a collaborative environment. But that's my opinion. That's not anything coming officially from Evernote. But they got to be looking at it because everybody wants to have their own social network, don't they? So,
can you tell us a little bit more about Work Chat? There was a question about that earlier.
Okay, it's just like Facebook Chat or Google Chat or any of the chats. It's just a chat. It's irritating as hell, frankly, to have so many different so many different places people can reach out to you. They send you a note in Evernote Chat, and if you don't use Evernote Chat a lot, if you haven't made that part of your system, then that note sits there, and then you feel guilty when you see it. Having clarity of where communication happens is going to become increasingly important for all of us. I spend a lot of time in Skype, and I find often I'm going into Skype chat and using that as my de facto chat standard. And I realize that I'm really not doing as much of a service to others unless you know intimately that person's always on Skype, and the few people that I do it with. I should be probably sending them an email, so there's a little more better checks and balances, but it's just convenient to pop it into Skype, right? So how many do you have? We have Google Chat, we have Chat in Facebook, we have Chat in Skype, now we have Chat in Evernote. Oh my gosh. We have texting.
At least this helps with the fact that there's no chat on LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, they'll add it. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Of course they will. Well, maybe, it's going to be interesting to see, the fact that they capitulated so easily on Card Munch and jumped on the Evernote bandwagon. I'm wondering what's happening between those two. That's going to be a really interesting thing. There is one thing that I know that there's questions out, and if you haven't asked them, you should have. What about security? What should I be storing online, and what shouldn't I be storing online, and how safe is the information that I store in Evernote? And you should have asked me that question by now. I'd be very disappointed with your group if they haven't asked it. Have they asked it?
I'm sure it's in there, yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So here's my take on online security. Evernote is a cloud-based service, and cloud-based services are 100% secure for anything which does not need to be secure. So so go ahead and store anything on it that you feel comfortable with storing. But anything that's private, anything that's personal information that you'd be devastated if it got out or it could cause you some harm, you can still use Evernote, but you don't have to share every notebook. You can have local notebooks as well as shared notebooks. Evernote does not do a good job of creating an extra level of security. That's one of their weaknesses, and they do take a lot of criticism on that. You can encrypt areas of notes, but it's like one-time encryption. You set up the encryption, and if you lose the key, you can never unencrypt that information. It's like gone. So it's not like password protection. So they haven't set up password protection or encryption at a note level. It's at a data level within a document, but that's it as far as it goes. So anything which needs to be secure, you can use Evernote, but you only store it in your local notebook. You don't store it in a what they call a sync notebook. So you only have access to it on the computer that you put the information in on. You don't have access to it in your synced devices. And that Yeah, we'll take questions in just a second. That brings us pretty much to the end of this kind of the official part of the presentation. I do want to take a moment and say and answer or offer your community some information, kind of what's next. If we've kind of gotten to this point here, and you are interested in learning more, let me go. Oh, come on! Why does it do this? It's me trying to use Google Drive as my presentation tool. It's just awesome sauce. Okay, what's next? I've got. In September, I launched a course. The end of September or beginning of October, I launched a new course called Evernote Made Easy, and it's a 10-part course where I send you. It's 10 consecutive days, and I send you a new note every day that teaches you a new aspect of Evernote. It's basically a brain dump. Everything Steve knows about Evernote dumped on you over 10 days, and it's all video tutorials, pretty easy to consume. Every day you get a shared. This is, I think, a little bit of brilliance. Every day you get a shared note. So it starts to get you in the Evernote habit, which is so crucial. So you basically open that note in your browser, you save it to Evernote, and at the end of the course you end up with an Evernote textbook. And all you have to do is refresh those notes to get free updates. So you basically have, as long as I'm supporting the course, you get free updates because I keep the same notebook structure and I just keep adding new information to those notebooks. It's turned out to be just an awesome course. One of the nicest things about the course is we started a Facebook group with it, and that's shocked the heck out of me. There's over 600 people now in the Facebook group, and they are helping each other so much because Evernote, as I said, there's no right, no wrong way to do Evernote, but they share ideas, and people keep posting, I'm wanting to do this with Evernote, and somebody comes back with a solution, or they end up in a conversation. It's become so supportive and such a rich environment that I'm getting most of my new demo ideas from that group. And I find I'm not answering nearly as many questions, so I like the fact I have to work less hard. But the answers are better because it's not just coming from my opinion and one perspective, it's coming from the community's perspective. So we're learning so much. So here's the key to this course, though. Every day for 10 days, you get an email first thing in the morning with your new Evernote note. All you have to do is commit to reading through that, saving that to Evernote, and you're starting to develop the habit of storing stuff in Evernote. And it becomes easier and easier for you to do that because Evernote will have a tipping point. You'll find you're storing information, and you're kind of wondering, is this really worth it? And then one day, the penny drops. You're at that coffee meeting, you pull up your phone, you call up that piece of information in the business meeting or in the with your friends, and you're suddenly a superstar because you found a piece of information, you made a withdrawal from that bank account that you've been depositing in for so much time, and that's where you start to understand the value of Evernote, and that's what turns people into, from kind of casual users into turning it into the heart of their productivity system, and it's really built to be the heart of your productivity system. So my offer. It takes about a month to get really a habit of using it. So this first 10 days, you go through the course and you're starting to use it. Within a month, you'll know whether or not you want to use it or not. If you don't want to use it after a month, let me know. And I give you your money back. But at the end of the day, Evernote is a tool that makes you better. It makes you more capable, more organized, and here is the hidden benefit. You're less stressed because you don't wonder where everything is. In the last 3 weeks, have you spent time searching through your email looking for something that's there? If you spend time searching in your email, you need Evernote. Bottom line, because you shouldn't be storing things and looking for things in email. Anything that's important that's come into your email should be replied to and then forwarded into Evernote where you can find it when you need it and where you need it. The course itself, 10 emails, 10 days. It's about a half an hour a day of content. There's about 50 videos total. Access to the Facebook group, which is so valuable, and unlimited updates, all for the incredible price of $97, of course, the internet standard. And I actually have a second course that I developed with Mike Vardy that you can get as a bundle, which is all about task apps. So if you're into task and to-do list management, you might want to take a look at that course in the bundle as well. And what we do is we look at 4 major task apps. We look at Asana, Trello, Todoist, and Wunderlist, and we teach the same lessons with all 4 of those products. So regardless of which one you want to use, you can work with any one of those 4 and learn the basics of really good task management because Mike Vardy is an expert at that, and they can do it. And if you're interested in taking a look at my Patreon page, I forgot I should have taken that out, but I kind of have to do it now.
Yes.
We have a community-funded site, so drop by our Patreon page and take a look at that. But I don't really want to talk about that too much. That was kind of. I'll honor it. But,
Oops.
Yeah. Oops.
We'll do a Patreon webinar with you.
We should.
Because it's really cool in a couple months.
It's such a cool thing. Patreon, crowdfunding for content creators is such a cool concept. So that's it. So that's I got to put here. I got to pop in. Where do you go? You probably wonder where to go, Steve. Here
Yes,
is
where do
where
we
you
go,
go.
Steve?
You're going to display the offer right now. Display the offer. So if you look in the side of your sidebar, there is a link there where you can go for more information. And if you are interested in ordering the product, you could, within 10 days from now, you could be virtually an Evernote ninja. You've taken the course, haven't you? Did I put you through the course?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay. Good.
That's why I'm such a ninja.
Well, I remember I was always
Let's
surprised
ask some
because,
questions, yeah?
well, I was surprised because most of my friends I don't really push the course to, and then you were really interested in it, so I sent it to you, and then all of a sudden you're coming back with questions, and I go, geez, Viveka.
I know, shut up, Viveka. I gave this for free. Don't take my time.
Well, but it's also that you're really using it. People
No.
who get stuff for free quite often don't. I shouldn't tell people you got it for free,
I know.
but they don't quite often. You just don't expect them to really embrace it because they got it for free, and the value is free. So you know what you got. But you have dived in, and you've come up with some really good stuff. That's good. Yeah,
Awesome.
Let's do questions.
Let's do questions. Okay. So Renee asks, how do I get that Evernote email address again?
Oh, you find your Evernote email address by going into your account information in Evernote. There is, if you can't find it, just do a quick search on Google or on YouTube. I know I have videos that show how to do it. I'm not going to dive back in and show demo here right now, but it's very easy to find under your account info in Evernote. There's a little kind of a funny little A7425@evernote.com type email address that you create, and then anything that's sent to that email address automatically is put in your inbox in Evernote.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then Carol asks, I know you said Evernote is client-centric. Does it link emails to contacts automatically, or can it be used as an email client? Can Evernote be used as an email client?
No.
Probably not. No.
No.
You could probably use ifthisthenThat.com to do all of these, but I don't think I'd want to use it as an.
No, let the singers sing and the dancers dance.
Yes,
No.
exactly. Yeah, Glenda's. She said your idea to have an Evernote textbook with refreshes for course is brilliant, and I agree with her on that.
I agree with her too.
Yes.
It's one of my best ideas.
That's so smart. Is Card Munch? No, not Card Munch. So Bill asked if Card Munch was available again. No, it's not. This is even better because it works more flawlessly than Card Munch does. It works more quickly than Card Munch does, and it works on all mobile platforms, which Card Munch did not. Card Munch was essentially iOS. So I'll answer that question. Question for you: does Evernote link with Salesforce?
Yes, I believe the integration from Task Clone will also include Salesforce, and there are also some other integrations that you can do, even using a Zapier and stuff. But I think Task Clone is the best way to go for that. Yeah.
Okay, Task Clone, and I put the link in the chat box for you guys for that, and we'll send that to you later too, I think.
Yeah, all of these notes, as well as a link to the replay and to the course, and also there's a link in the email that we're going to send you afterwards to my mail list.
Yeah.
You will get a series of about 4 emails following up from this webinar, but they're just coming from the webinar itself, from this one instance of the webinar. Any of you folks that are still here right now, you're not on my mail list, so you're not going to get a bunch of spam from Dottotech. If you want to know more about my upcoming webinars that I do and to be on my mail list, there's a link there where you'll have to opt in on my mail list. And I do Evernote webinars, but productivity webinars, but I'm doing a YouTube webinar coming up next week on how I'm calling it the ultimate guide to YouTube publishing. It's going to be awesome.
Which I need to do. I suck at YouTube. How do you separate out local notebooks from sync notebooks for security?
That happens when you create the notebook, and you can only do it at the moment of creation of a notebook.
Oh.
So, yeah. But having said that, you can also, if you've made a mistake, you can just take all of the notes, move them and create a new notebook, move all of the notes from that notebook into whatever one is properly organized, and then delete the old notebook.
Okay, perfect. Let me see. Ron wanted us to post the card reader URL. There isn't one. It's in the app. It's actually just in the app itself. We showed you that earlier, so you can either just rewatch that. But it's actually in the app itself. You go into settings, and you want to set up your camera, but then it's just a matter of taking a picture of and linking, of course, your iPad or your smartphone app to LinkedIn, but then it's all in there. So it's just in your smartphone app.
And
Is that right?
in the email we send you is a shared Evernote note, which you don't have to be using Evernote to read. It'll just view in the browser. But there are links to most of my Evernote demos that I've got on YouTube, and I include the demo of exactly how to do that as one of those links. So you will get that information very, very soon.
Perfect. Ken asks, which does Evernote work best on? iPhone, Android, BlackBerry? All of them, right?
Well, not BlackBerry.
Not BlackBerry. Everything but BlackBerry.
A good Canadian. I don't know if it works great on BlackBerry. BlackBerry loved Evernote to the point that with the newest version of the BlackBerry operating system, not the newest one, but when they came up with BlackBerry 10, their notes feature was actually Evernote, which actually sounds great, but it was a bad idea because it was neutered, because it had to fit in their operating system, so it wasn't updatable by Evernote, so it's kind of locked down with a few less features. But it respected what Evernote was, but it didn't do everything Evernote did, so it was kind of like, ah!
Lola wants to know if they take your course, or do the people you collaborate with need premium service?
No, you don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay, cool. This is just a comment. Glenda says, I'm like an excited, yappy little dog. There's so much great info. She really liked the pistachio piece.
Oh, yeah, that's a company that's over on Vancouver Island.
Are you serious? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, they're in Victoria. They're a little company. I don't know if they're doing well yet, but they've got a very cool concept. The fact that it's a URL, that every post, every note that you have has basically got its own web address is very cool. And there's going to be other great ideas that come out of that capability.
Okay, perfect. And then there's been a couple questions about Evernote and Dropbox combining. They combine through IFT, and I actually put a couple links in the chat. So if you just check there, you can see that. I know a few of you have to go, but let's just take a few more questions while we're on it. Let's see here. Can you resend the link for the offer?
Yeah, you know what I'll do is I'll actually copy it and I'll paste it into the chat box as well. So just give me a second here.
Okay, no problem. If you can paste and think at the same time, I'll ask you another question.
I can.
Ronald says this webinar receives the Double Down Wow Award. Thank you. I know, and wouldn't you just wish your brain was as big as Steve's? I wish my brain was as big as Steve's. Big giant head. Let me see. Can you customize a LinkedIn invitation from Evernote? I think you can. Can you remember?
I don't think you can.
You can't. Okay. Just so you know, Bob.
I don't think it does. I think it automatically creates. It assumes that you're friends already.
Yeah. Which is nice because it makes it easier to connect. You can now, by the way, customize an invitation on the LinkedIn app, both on Android and on iPhone. But it's really weird. On the iPhone, it looks like the share. What's usually the share symbol on the top right-hand side. You click on that, and it allows you to customize the invitation. And on the Android app, it looks like a little home symbol. So it's very confusing, but you can actually do that. So just FYI. Let me see. A couple more questions here. Does Evernote? Good question, Maylene. Does Evernote integrate with Microsoft Outlook tasks?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Good question. If you live in the Microsoft world, if you need to use Outlook and that's your world, and especially if you're on a Windows 8 tablet, Evernote's good, but Microsoft OneNote is also a really good choice. Now, it's not my specialty, but if Microsoft had done a better job of things earlier on with it, as far as putting it front and center, I think it's Microsoft's best single app ever. And so if you decide that you want this functionality, especially if you're on a tablet and you're looking for more handwriting and things like that, take a good hard look at OneNote before you commit to Evernote, because OneNote might well be a tool that really works for you. It is amazing. It's different. It's amazing and different, just like the Windows 8 tablet's different than the iPad. Evernote's great on the iPad, but if I had a Windows 8 tablet, I'd be doing a webinar right now on OneNote.
On OneNote. But you wouldn't be doing it with me since I don't use a PC.
I would get you to switch.
Yeah, you would. Can you clip video, short video with Evernote? That's a good question, Craig.
No. You can create links,
Yeah.
but you can't play videos back in an Evernote window. I've tried to figure out workarounds. I've tried every way because I would love to be able to deliver my content
Yeah.
right in the note, but no, I have to link to a web page or to a YouTube page.
Okay, cool. I don't even know what this is, but Bruce asks, is a transwarp drive available? Neither of us know what that is. So I'd guess no, but who knows?
I don't know what a transwarp drive is. Is he watching Star Trek? Was he supposed? Was it like when you send a text to a person and then you've just read a text from somebody else and you send the wrong person the text? Was he in a Star Trek chat room and he accidentally said that to us?
Exactly. Carol asks, what's the best CRM system for small businesses that use Evernote?
Oh, there's some really good ones, like Insightly, and there's a couple of good ones. Insightly is good, and I just went through evaluating them all because I just made the switch, and I just did a big investment myself, and I chose Infusionsoft because I do internet marketing.
Boo.
Sorry. I know your guys are awesome. I took a look at your guys.
I know.
Yeah. And it was a difficult decision, and I still feel bad. Don't make me feel worse. But there's Agile, CRM, Insightly. There's a few of them that are really, really good, depending on what type of CRM you need. But take your time before you decide, because your relationship with the CRM is very similar to a relationship with a significant other. It's difficult to unentangle yourself at the end, and you feel like you've wasted a lot of time, and there can be bitterness. So make sure, because you invested so much in the damn person or thing.
Oh, I know. Yeah. When you go to something like that, you do invest a lot of time and money too.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a few more questions here. I'm now just going to the ones with his questions. What happened to the highlighter tool in the web version? Did you notice that the highlighter tool seems to be missing from the web toolbar? Oh, that's a MacBook Pro question. But
no,
still.
I didn't notice that. That's
all right.
Yeah. I was just reading. Somebody's talking about. You remind me of Macy's Santa, telling parents to find toys at Gimli's when talking about OneNote. I'm sure is Gimli's another. I guess that's another store, eh? Or Gimbals.
Yeah, I think
Gimbals.
so.
Okay.
Gimbals. Oh, Gimbals. Yeah.
I'm glad I remember Santa. This is the gray beard.
Yeah, very Santa-like. Let me see. I think we've answered a lot of these questions. I'm just going through there. Yeah, there will be a replay. I know we're running 15 minutes late. Let me see if there's any new questions here. Confusionsoft. Yes, indeed, Tracy.
You know, I'm going to say something about that because I know that they say that, and I've looked at Entreport. I've looked at all of them. It's a difficult process. A full-blown CRM that's designed for email and internet marketing is not a simple solution. So it doesn't matter what tool you choose, it is not going to be easy to use. I mean, people get confused using Aweber, for goodness sakes, right? The most basic stripped-down tool that you can kind of put to the place. So you have to go in with the attitude of you're going to master these tools and you're going to be on top of these tools. It drives me crazy when people buy software and expect the software to do all of the work, and they aren't willing to invest in developing their own skills. So I don't mean, and I'm not slamming you, because I called it, I actually, when I did the first call with them, I said, everybody calls it Confusionsoft. So I said it to them as well. But, you know, it's been a learning curve, and it is a steep learning curve. But it's the most important business tool that a lot of us have is our CRM.
Yep.
You know, and so it is one that is well worth investing our time in mastering. Yeah.
Yep. Lola said, can you create subfolders?
No. You can create notes, you can create notebooks, and you can create stacks of notebooks. Evernote considers a very flat file structure, and it's all based on search and tagging. So I recommend people start with very few notebooks, but create tags. And once you've got a lot of notes with the same tag, consider making that a notebook.
Oh, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's in one of the course modules. You apparently didn't take them all.
I know. No, I'd already created like 10,000 books before I did that.
Okay.
Plus, I don't trust tags, so I'm not a tagger. But I have to do more tagging.
Total tagger.
Susie, what do I recommend rather than Infusionsoft? I use a tool called All Pro Web Tools, allprowebtools.com. You can reach out to me later. I'll get you their information. Oh, wow. Ava's used ACT since 1990. I used ACT in 1990.
Yeah, there's a couple of those old ones. ACT and Maximizer were the two big ones, right? All the realtors use ACT, Maximizer, and another one called something gold. Anyways, all of those
Goldmine.
gold,
Goldmine?
yeah, Goldmine, I think it was. But man, oh man, all of those systems really. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of valuable data in those systems that they want to pull out because they need something that,
Yeah.
But and she said the exact thing where it all falls apart is she can't get the stuff on her phone.
Yeah.
And we need, this thing that I said, and it sounds like one of those catchphrases, but where you are when you are. That's so crucial because it's our digital brain. All of these assets we need to have access to where we need them. And we are an ADHD society now. We want it now or it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. I personally, and we've actually got a webinar on that next week with John from Nimble, but I use Nimble not as my sole CRM system, but my network is so freaking big that I have to have some way of managing that. So I also use Nimble as a CRM system, and John's always working on linking. So I've told him I want him to link to Evernote too.
Well, and when I was mentioning Insightly, there's Nimble is another one that's a major contender in that space, and I was remiss by not mentioning it. If you're doing a webinar on it, take that in. Because here's the thing that I determined when I purchased Infusionsoft, and it's this might be a life lesson from Steve. Is I said in a blog post or in one of my vlogs, it doesn't matter whether I made the right or the wrong decision. I made the decision, and that was right. Now it's up to me to make that tool work for me. So there's no recrimination. I love I like what your guys do, and I really like Entreport too. I think it's an awesome product. And if I'd chosen either of those, I would be saying I made the right decision because it's now my responsibility to make this work with my business systems. And that's the attitude you have to take. So once you're on that path, is make it work for you.
Yep, exactly. Here, I'm going to put a little pumping of next week, but here's the Nimble webinar for next week too. So, any last comments on
from
what
me?
people should do? From you.
Buy my course. I'm terrible. I'm like Viveka. I'm the world's worst salesman, so it's always like, and I've been trying to learn from these guys that do it really well, and they do it so well, and I do it, but yeah.
But it's so salesy too. I mean, that's what I like about you, and I can't do the hard sales pitch either. I've tried.
Well, that's and that's the thing is, if one, I hope that people feel that this webinar was full of as much content as we could pack in, and that's what I want to do. I think that there's a culture on the internet of trying to sell everything downstream as opposed to giving out free information. I respect people's time that they spend with us, and I know you do, which is why we work so well together. And so let's make sure that people really come out of this having learned something that they can make decisions on.
Exactly. Okay, so this sounds terrible, but if you're in content marketing and content management and you do webinars anyway, I would say buy Steve's course, because just the whole idea of rolling out a training system in Evernote is so freaking cool that you want to copy what he does. But buy it anyway, because it really is. It's such a useful course. I use obviously I use Evernote a lot now. My fingers are crossed that LinkedIn and Evernote continue to nurture the relationship. I would love to see the notes from LinkedIn CRM system be able to be automatically exported into Evernote, and we'll see what's coming up with that, right?
I mean, because I'm not so excited because you're a huge fan of LinkedIn. I'm obviously, but I'm really kind of pissed off at them for what they've done with Reportive, because Reportive used to be the most amazing, great, context-sensitive tool, and now it kind of sucks because they've taken all the notes. I found a new one, by the way, which I just did a video on called Full Contact, which does a lot of it, but. I hope they don't mess up. I don't think anybody will mess up Evernote. Evernote is perfectly capable of messing up themselves. So I don't think it'll be like. But I do like that. I do like that how they're integrating with all of the other services as well. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Well, we have kept you here 20 minutes past what we said we would, but Steve has just such a giant brain that you definitely want to. want to get access to it. So I just want to thank you all for being here again today, for trusting me enough that Steve was going to be worth listening to. I hope you found him worth listening to. I certainly do. And yeah, we'll just keep you in touch. I'm going to be doing more of this productivity webinars. More with Steve, no doubt. I just pinged the guys at Asana, so we'll see. John from Nimble will be doing a webinar next week. So just keep in touch with me, keep in touch with Steve, and stay productive.
Viveka? Thank you very much. To all of
Thank you.
your community, we'll stick around and chat for a few minutes to get the last questions. But until
Sure.
next time, have fun storming a castle.
I love that.